Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October Board of Adjustments and Appeals. Today is October 19th. It is a little bit after 9 o'clock, and we are now in session. Today we have, Today we have two cases before us. The procedures for both cases are going to be the same. Here in a minute, I'm going to swear staff in. Gretchen will read the what's on the docket. Staff's going to come to the podium and give a staff report. There's going to be a round of questioning by board members to staff. And when we're done with that, staff's going to take a seat. I'm going to call you, the applicant, forward. Come forward to the podium, raise your right hand, state your name and address, and be sworn in. Justify your project. You'll have 20 minutes to do so. Please make sure you speak directly into the mic at the podium. There's cameras and we're picking up audio and all that, so we cannot hear you from the audience. If you need to speak, come to the podium. There will be a round of questioning by board members to you, the applicant. And when we're done with that, you, the applicant, may take a seat. And I will call forward anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the application and then opposed to the application. Same procedures. You're going to come forward, state your name and address, raise your right hand, be sworn in, tell us why you're in favor of the application, tell us why you're opposed to the application. Each of those bodies, those in favor of the application, will have 10 minutes, and then those opposed to the application will have 10 minutes. Same thing. There might be a round of questioning by board members to you. And when we're done with that, you may take a seat. If there's opposition, I will call the applicant back forward, and they'll have time for rebuttal. They'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then I'll call the opposition forward if they have rebuttal. And then five minutes for final statements. I'm going to close the floor for public hearing, open it up for general discussion, and call for a vote. Make sure your cell phones are off or on vibrate. If you need to use them, please excuse yourself from the courtroom. Just make sure it's off when you come back in. Board members, mic's on, and let's get going. If we could swear staff in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
And Gretchen, if you'd like to read the first one, please.
OC 23-038, an application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental property located at 3102 Belknap Beach Road, Prospect.
All right. Thank you. Ryan Fisher, Senior Planner with Oldham County Planning and Development, 100 West Jefferson. Before I begin, since both of the cases on the docket today are short-term rentals, I just want to bring you up to speed. Early October, Oldham County Fiscal Court approved a new set of short-term rental regulations that went into ordinance after that meeting. Per the county attorney, okay, so that new ordinance, and we're going to do some training on it later, but essentially says non-owner occupied short-term rentals now have to be in commercial zoning. So no non-owner occupieds would be allowed in any sort of residential zoning, agricultural, like we've seen. The county attorney, though, because these two applications were applied for under the old regulations at the time that those regulations were in place, these are allowed to go forward. So just to keep you all up to speed on that, and that's why we're here today with these two. So with that being said, we'll get into this first application. And as Ms. Chitwood stated, this is a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental at 3102 Belknap Beach Road.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in light of what the Oldham County Fiscal Court just approved, and in light of the fact that your agency needs to annually review and do permits, right, for the STRs, how are you going to proceed with your annual review process in light of the new fiscal court regulations?
So these would be, if these were passed today, these would be treated just like any other short-term rental that's already in effect right now as a legal non-conforming use and would be applied under the old regulations as far as being allowed in that area, unless at a time that either conditional use permit or license, I think is actually the new terms we're going to be calling it, are revoked for any reason or they fail to get renewal, then those would not be allowed in that zoning classification because they've lost their permit.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is a CO1 conservation zoning area right down along the river on 0.314 acres. So a little bit of site history with this case. So this case came to our office because of a code enforcement complaint. And the code enforcement officer, Adam Bear, is with us today if you all have any questions about the specific case, the information that he received about it and what happened with the code board. But in August, code enforcement officer Adam Bear received a complaint from a neighbor about trash and noise on that property and that they thought the house was being used as a short-term rental. On August 14th, 2023, he did issue a citation, which I've included in your staff packets to look at, for that property being used as a short-term rental without a permit. The case was heard at the Code Board on September 6, 2023. And here are just a couple, I think I've got a couple slides in here from his actual presentation he made before the Code Board, just showing a snapshot of the listing. There was another picture I don't think I included in here where you could actually rent it for less than 30 days. And then a picture of the house on the date he posted the citation on the door. And then here's a copy of that citation, which you do have in your staff packet. I know, Adam can talk more about this, but that the property is in compliance. They took the listing down. The applicant did immediately call and kind of start that process to get in here. So just to kind of share that as well. And once again, Adam is here in case you all have any specific questions about his particular case. As far as the case history, this was posted to our website on the 29th of September. We sent out our APOs early October there on October 4th, and the public notice appeared in the Era on the 12th. Here is the property on the river. The house is not surrounded by water, just so you know. I was down there the other day. There was this is what the image gives us. CO1 conservation zoning area. And then I'll go through these real fast because I'm pretty sure we're pretty familiar with short-term rentals already, so I don't need to go over these. But the applicant's requesting that conditional use permit for the non-owner occupied short-term rental. And that definition states that the owner does not permanently reside in the short-term rental or in a principal residential use and in which unit in which the short-term rental is associated. So that's why we're here today. Here's a floor plan of the location. This is what they provided with their short-term rental application, showing the floor plan. 5 bedrooms. They've got their smoke detector locations listed just like they would for the short-term rental application itself. And then a couple pictures that I took of the property the other day. And then just looking down Belknap Beach, both directions. And then as far as the responsible party, Leslie Walker is the responsible party, 7019 Billy Lane. And so you can see there, it is within the 25 miles that the regulation does say that the responsible party has to be within. So in summary, the applicant's requesting the conditional use permit for the non-owner occupied short-term rental at 3102 Belknap Beach in Prospect. Potential conditions of approval. The conditional use permit shall only apply to the application considered at the October 19th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing. The applicant shall comply with all regulations concerning short-term rental properties outlined in the zoning regulations, section 250-050. And the conditional use permit shall be automatically revoked upon transfer or sale of the property. And then the applicant shall apply for and be issued that short-term rental property permit before renting the property. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or questions for Mr. Bear, we'd be more than happy to entertain those.
Any questions?
I actually do. The stipulation that the transfer of property would negate the application, is that going to apply to everything going forward then?
Yeah, that is something that came up as we looked at those new regulations, that when the properties get sold, that them not necessarily being the conditional use permit that stays with that property, the short-term rental portion going with that land as a right. So that is something that our director said, let's start putting that in there and
Okay.
go from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thanks. If we can have the applicant come forward, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Let me see if I can do this.
And you are legal counsel representing the applicant, is that correct?
I am. Chelsea Bramall on behalf of the applicant. And I don't know how to make this big.
I'm sorry, did you say Chelsea?
Chelsea Bramall, 401 West Jefferson Street,
Okay.
LaGrange.
Okay.
And I
Great,
have the
Chelsea.
host available to give additional testimony if you want to swear her in at this time or if you want to wait until later.
It does, is she going to speak?
Probably, most likely.
We'll swear her in when she comes up front.
Okay. All right, here's a picture of the property that we've just seen. The focus of this is the demand for recreational opportunities on the river. So Oldham County has a huge expanse of riverfront property stretching from side to side on the county, and not terribly many opportunities to open those up for recreation purposes. This under your conditional use standards, it talks about the relationship to natural resources. This property is uniquely positioned on the river with a boat dock to enjoy the recreation purposes that the river has to offer. It is essential or desirable to the community, and it's not in conflict with the elements and objectives of the comprehensive plan, as we'll see. This is a CO1 Conservation Recreation District, and so part of the purpose of that, as outlined in the zoning ordinance, is to promote and protect significant natural features. So part of that promotion is allowing access and opening these up to individuals who would not otherwise get to experience that. Also to promote the enjoyment of natural resources, here's a snapshot of the demand for riverfront recreation. It was just announced that the Ohio River is attempting to or will soon qualify for the National Water Trail Program. So that's with the Department of Parks Department on the federal level, and so that's a big deal that will attract, and it's showing that the state of Kentucky, the Ohio River area corridor, is going to promote access to the river and recreational purposes that way. As you can see, the property is located, I think it's the third one back here, but it's by the harbor and the additional boat docks there, and this one shows the availability of short-term rentals. It was just a snapshot from one of the sites that shows all along this corridor there are available Airbnb type of short-term rentals that so it's showing the demand for those. So those are already active. In compliance with the comprehensive plan, it talks about enhancing the Ohio River corridor. And one of the things is encouraging public and private entities to acquire land along the riverfront and for public access and protection of natural resources. Another is to encourage development of land uses that are complementary to the river access points. So it's in compliance, this project is in compliance with that comprehensive plan. This is a little bit of the House rules. It's just sort of an excerpt. I've had to cut and paste a couple of things because for privacy purposes. But the owners are very strict about enforcing their rules and keeping this with as little disturbance as possible. There's plenty of parking and a prohibition about parking in the roads. It has a circle driveway, as you can tell from that first picture, and it says there are eight cars can fit there. That is well within the parking regulations of the new ordinance, which is 2.5. Sorry, I'm out of breath. 2.5 cars per occupants, and the maximum occupancy being 14. So they're well within that, plus the 2 spots in the garage. And then they enforce a quiet time, which is also in compliance with the new rules. So the 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., I think the new rules say 10 to 7. And again, this is just a picture of the area. It's not a highly populated place. And the property in question might be in the middle of those two things. Set their property back. Right, we're happy to answer any questions, and I have the applicant here we can pull up too, if you have anything additional.
Okay. And did the applicant have further?
The host.
The host, thank you. Anything else further to say, or would you like to come forward? Okay, I need you to raise your right hand, state your name and address, be sworn in.
Leslie Walker, 7019 Billy Lane, Louisville, Kentucky.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the address.
7019 Billy, Billie, Lane.
All right, yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. So I am Leslie Walker with McNeese Short-Term Rental Management. I've been with the company for about a year and a half now. I've been doing short-term rentals for almost 2 years, and I've been in property management for almost 10 years. I have 11 other rentals, I say in the area, but more so in the Louisville metro. So I am the primary and local contact. Should anything ever be needed from the guests, from neighbors, anything like that, they can always reach out to me directly. We also have 24-hour inbox monitoring of our guests and their reservations. So if they have any issues, concerns, if we notice anything's going on, like there are additional guests that's not on the reservation, we have security cameras, of course, ring cameras, things like that. If we see anything that's not allowed within our rules, like smoking, additional pets, anything that's not on the reservation, we do reach out to them immediately. And I have had instances where, say they are having a party, we can call in local law enforcement. I can get that reservation canceled immediately, which does have them leave the properties immediately with the help of law enforcement. And then we can secure that home and cancel their reservation and move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
All right, questions for the applicant or the host?
I have a question for you. How many other homes are on this stretch?
This will be the only one that's in Oldham County. There is another one that's riverfront that is actually over in Jeffersonville, or technically Utica. But those are the only two.
I mean,
that
on
are
this
there.
stretch of property.
Oh, that are actually short-term rentals?
No, how many houses are up there that people live in?
Oh, that I do not know.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Okay, Leslie, thank you. You may
Thank
take a
you.
seat. Anything else for Chelsea? Okay, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Opposed to the application? Okay, if you'd like to come forward. Morning. And I need you to state your name and address and be sworn in.
My name is Christina Norris. I am a resident of Belknap Beach at 28, I'm a resident of Belknap Beach at 2802 Belknap Beach. I've actually been a resident on Belknap Beach since 1991 at another property, so I'm very, very familiar with the properties along the river there.
Okay.
I also, disclaimer, I'm also a lawyer, so I approach this from not only a personal perspective, but from a legal perspective.
Yeah, hang on, Christina, do we need to swear her in? Yes, well, I guess we do. Let's get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, disclaimer, I'm a lawyer, so I'm a resident and also have a legal perspective on this. With all due respect to the applicant, nothing that they have presented is factual in terms of how this property affects the residents. I can't remember how long these people have been on the beach, but the property down there is large, and it's like a frat house. I mean, there's tons of cars, There are tons of people. I happen to live midway up the street, more or less, and part of the problems with short-term rentals is people don't understand that that street is our sidewalk, okay? We walk our dogs up and down that street. I run up and down that street. I ride my bicycle up and down that street. So the street itself is our main pedestrian corridor. So when you have 8 cars with however many people that they want to bring to the street, they don't have an appreciation that is our home and this is where we live. And typically we have problems with speeding. There's no speed bumps in that street, so we have problems with the renters speeding. We have problems with the renters being disrespectful when you try and get them to stop from speeding. And so when they're down there are, again, 8 to 10 cars, and the people that are managing this don't even have enough respect to put out enough trash receptacles. So when they finish their short-term rental, it looks like you're in a dumping zone. The trash is overflowing onto the street, and it stays like that until Oldham County, until the trash people come. They don't come up and clean around the trash barrels, so the trash may stay on the street for another week. So it is a terrible, terrible thing for, I mean, I appreciate, I believe the new ordinance says that you have to be an owner-occupier to have a short-term rental. Is that correct?
That currently that is not correct.
Okay, but as a non-owner, and I believe the owners live in Chicago, they have 11 other rentals. They have absolutely no idea what is going on that street. They have absolutely no idea how it's affecting the residents. And the thought that we can just, watch them on the cameras and call the police if they create a problem is not acceptable, because then that just creates a police presence on our street that we don't typically have. So it is a complete and utterly unacceptable infringement on the residents of Belknap Beach. We do have other short-term rentals there on the Belknap Beach that are owner-occupied that are not a problem. Because the owners are there, they're boots on the ground, they vet their people. It's not a corporation. This is a corporation strictly there to make money who really has no concern about how it affects the residents, and it affects us dramatically. Right now, if you were to drive down to this property, it is overgrown, it hasn't been tended to, it looks like it's vacant. The dock, they say that they want to encourage and enhance the river frontage. The dock is falling apart. They haven't attended to anything on the property to keep it looking commensurate with the rest of the properties on the beach. And I happen to be an endurance swimmer. So I swim up and down Belknap Beach all day long, every day. And I don't want a bunch of people that are drinking, drugging, doing whatever they want to do on a short term because they're having their frat party or their bachelor party, or they're coming in for a bourbon tour, drinking and using that river with a boat or a sea-doo or whatever while I'm swimming in the river. So all of the things that they've presented are nice, they sound good on paper, but they don't live there, they're not affected, and that's the problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Christina?
When you talk about people being there and the parking issue, how much of a problem is the parking issue in terms of when there's a lot of people there?
Well, sir, it's hard to say whether the parking itself, because it's got a double garage, I think, and then it does have a long driveway. I do believe that sometimes they spill over into a little square parking area across the street where they're not supposed to park. So it's, to me, it's an eyesore in terms of parking because it looks like a used car lot. But besides that, I think it's the traffic, the increased traffic on the street in a residential neighborhood where they don't really appreciate what, how we live on that street, how we use that street.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other opposition? Ma'am, we'll go ahead and go with you first. Yeah, yes, you. And yes, you. Good morning. Same thing, if you can state your name and address and be sworn in.
I'm Judy Miner. I live at 2510 Belknap Beach. I've been there 28 years.
Okay, and be sworn in, please.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I can probably second everything that Nina said. And the important thing for us is that our neighbors are so valuable to us as a community. It's a small little street. We're isolated. We depend on each other and tolerate each other. We have close to us a house that is rented, we think, by some, it's a long-term rental, a yearly lease, but they rent it as, the people who've rented it use it as a party house. So I bet in the last year there have been 20 to 25 times when fireworks go off at 11:30 at night. It's just been a real problem for us. I'm sure they're nice people, but they don't live there. So, no, it's not it is probably an owner rental, but just as an example of what can happen, it doesn't serve our neighborhood, which we value highly. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Judy? All right, very good. Thank you, Judy. And I saw one other hand. Yes, ma'am, if you'd like to come forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
Same thing.
Victoria Berry, 2716 Belknap Beach.
I didn't catch your name.
Victoria Berry.
Victoria. All right, and Victoria, if you can move the mic down a little bit. There we go. Thank
Sorry.
you. And your address, Victoria?
2716 Belknap Beach.
Okay.
Residents about,
Hey, hang on. Let's get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
First off, I've got a couple of pictures here that were taken several days ago.
Actually, put it on the overhead there.
Oh, that's upside down. Usually our grass is green. All right, this was taken a couple of days ago. We live not too far from the T Street, which is Spring Drive coming into the beach off of Rose Island. We often don't go down there, but we have heard from other neighbors about the excessive parking and the trash. So that's been several of the complaints that I personally have not witnessed, but have heard of.
Ma'am, what am I looking at on this picture?
Okay.
What are you trying
Yes.
to point out?
All right. The overgrown, it's kind of, the landscaping and the bushes being overgrown.
Okay.
The fixture on the stone wall, that is actually the garage, the outside of the garage. And it has a bowl, like a fountain type of thing, of which obviously you cannot see in this particular picture.
Okay.
This is, again, the same. Those windows are normal length. As you can see, the stone stairway going up into the building is to the left. The garage is to the left, parallel to the street. Those windows obviously all covered up and so forth. First off, other than the eyesore of which this has turned out to be, unfortunately. I'd like to object since the property has been operating as a short-term rental, apparently illegally, or we wouldn't be here today. It is a source of loud parties, multiple complaints on parking. It was listed on VRBO. This has been a little bit ago, and I've got notes on the side of it because and I think this was the mirrors messed me up too, so I can't help that. But anyway, okay. That Nick person listed there, I've had to contact him before. I'm also a member of the Louisville Yacht Club, which abuts Belknap Beach to the south. And it's listed on there, and it's hard to tell, but what is underlined at the very bottom in that walks to the marina and so forth are part of the experience, which is not exactly true. We live symbiotically with Louisville Yacht Club. We are walkers from the yacht club and from Belknap Beach. It doesn't appear to be a big thing, although getting there is trespassing on other people's property. Not a big thing. Like I said, we live symbiotically. Okay. It's just that kind of neighborhood. Also on that particular listing, when it was on VRBO, this has been a little bit ago, that the sleeping capacity is 16, and the parking at that time was at 6. Obviously, that's kind of been disproven by other people who were here. It appears that the property has gone down as far as landscape and outside. Properties at 2714 and 2716 are sandwiched between two short-term rentals. We have been impacted by smaller groups, but by the same token, impacted. Fireworks, foul language, cigar smoking, karaoke at any given weekend. Again, my residence appears to be compromised by short-term rentals. Essentially, we are a single road lane. Opposing cars and truck meet, somebody has to give. There are numerous two-car drives going to the garage where you can pull off and not, again, invade people's yards. Generally, the residents are aware of this, and again, we're neighbors. And generally, when neighbors have a family event or a party, generally let other people know. But with this type of situation and this particular troubled property, apparently it has been just pretty invasive to our neighborhood. And I think that's all I really wanted to say about it.
Okay. All right, questions? Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, we'll have a short time for rebuttal, and with the applicant. Oh, Victoria, if we could, we need your pictures. You introduced them as evidence, so we need to put them in the packet if we can have them up here. Bring them up here, please.
Oh, sure.
Thanks, Tate. Okay, we'll have a short period of time for rebuttal. we can make a copy and get it back to you. Ryan, if you could just make sure that we get a copy of that and get back to her. Thank you.
To speak to the maintenance on the property, this is something that can be addressed. My assumption is it is a factor of the lapse in time from, I guess, the use that they were having until now, until the finality of the proceedings here. But that can be addressed if that's a complaint. There was one other thing I was question. The citation, when this was reported at the other time and brought to the attention of the owners, did not contain any of, or appear to contain any of the complaints about the fireworks and the smell of smoke and the karaoke and those kinds of things. So I would just put that out there, that may be happening on other properties, but there's no evidence that this is happening at this particular property. So those would be the two things that I would point out. We can do landscaping. I think it was probably just a wake-up call that the use was not appropriate, and so we're kind of in a holding pattern here. That's just an assumption that I can make, but we can, the property management company can certainly take care of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Opposition, you'll have a short period of time for rebuttal. Would anybody like to speak?
Oh, come on, leave it alone.
Christina Norris again. You know, that rebuttal is precisely and exactly Exhibit A of why this is not a good situation for our community. Oh, we could have addressed it. Oh, we didn't know. Well, if you're not boots on the ground, if you don't live on the property, you're not going to go. If you're from Chicago and have an off-site management company, you're not going to go. I can tell you, I don't remember anybody that appears to be a management company come down and check that property ever. So to stand here in front of you all and say, oh, golly, gee whiz, we didn't know, we can take care of it now, that's not good enough. They've been operating illegally. They've not been taking care of the property. They don't deserve to be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Final statements, either side. I guess opposition, we're going to start with you for any final statements. Anything else to add?
That's it.
If you do, you have to speak into the mic, but nothing else to add? Sir, we haven't heard from you, have we? Do you have anything to add? If so, you'll need to be sworn in. About the what? We're taking final statements at this point. Do you guys have any final statements? No. All right. Board members, questions for anybody?
I have a question.
Okay, Charles?
This company, how long has this company, this filing for this particular petition, how long have you had this property?
All right, well, you're asking if you'd like to come forward?
Leslie Walker. I am not sure how long the owners have had the property. They've signed a management agreement with us, McNeese Short-Term Rental Management, as of around October 1st of this year, give or take a few days. So I cannot speak on anything that happened prior when, as you've seen, Nick was listed as the property manager. He was part of the owner's management group. So I am not aware of anything prior to our signing of the contract. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, so we're not aware if there was a property management company managing the property prior to October 1st of this year?
The name that you've seen on that one sheet, Nick Hayworth, he was with the owners and their realty group. He's actually local here in Louisville, so he was the one acting as the on-site property manager before.
Okay, thank you.
Just add to that a little bit. When the applicant had originally filed their application, which would have been before the third week of September, they filed the paperwork with Nick Hayworth as the responsible party around October 1st, which coincides with what she just said, when they signed an agreement with this property management company. They sent in the new short-term rental application, which is what you all have showing Ms. Walker being listed as the property manager. So just to clarify that, they originally did put it in with the Nick Hayworth, which is where she's giving you that name from. So
I think Charles' question is good. If anybody can answer how long the actual owner of the property had the property operating as a short-term rental prior to trying to go into compliance.
That's my question.
How long was this rented prior to that application being filed as a short-term?
And I don't have that information.
Okay.
They have owned it since 2019.
They've owned it since 2000, and this is the owner that lives in Chicago, is that correct?
Correct.
No, ma'am, no, not yet. Christina, I just want it on record. It was stated by opposition, and you just agreed, but it is my question. The owners do live in Chicago, is that correct?
It's owned by a Kentucky LLC. So I don't know who all of the shareholders or the members of the LLC are, but the address, the office address of the LLC is in Chicago.
That's my question, thank you. Okay. And it has been owned by this LLC, I think, what Gretchen just asked, since 2019.
December of 2019.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for anybody?
I have a question for Adam Bayer.
Adam,
So-
we need to get you sworn in, or were you already sworn in?
I was already sworn in.
Okay.
So regarding citation number 715 dated August 14th, 2023, presumably you just didn't parachute in and find a violation, that there was something that triggered, or you had a phone call that someone complained and you went in there and took a look at the situation. Can you give us some background on how you got called in and what was going on that triggered your visit to the site and the citation process?
So I received a complaint the week prior to the issuance of the citation. The complaint came in about noise and trash being scattered around the property. I got the complaint on Thursday or Friday the week before. I went out there that Monday, took some pictures of the property. By the time I got out there Monday, there was no trash or anything, but I did a little research to find the property listed as a short-term rental. I then came back to the office, looked up through our short-term rental applications and permits, could not find the property I was trying to find the responsible party. I couldn't find the property listed, so that's what resolved the issuance of the citation, because I did find it listed on I think it was VRBO's where I found it at. So I did a little bit of research to contact the owner, mailed out the letter. I did contact the owner. I spoke to a gentleman in Chicago, told him about the citation being issued, the complaint that I received, that the property needed to be delisted. It did go in front of the code board. They were found guilty in violation of the short-term rental, the zoning. They paid the fine of $150, and they took the application, they took the short-term rental off of the VRBO website at that time.
Okay, so what really initiated was someone complained about problems on the property.
Correct.
Before you showed up.
Yeah,
Okay.
they complained about a bunch of trash. I do have to say, when I got down there, because it was over the weekend before I got down there was no trash. So the citation was only issued for the failure to have a permit for a short-term rental.
Okay, thank you.
Hang on, Adam. Any other questions for Adam? Adam, it was stated, I believe by opposition, I heard the term or the multiple complaints. Have you had other complaints on this property, let's say in this year?
I have not. This was the first complaint on that property. Since receiving that complaint, from my knowledge, I don't believe it's been rented out. So, and with it not being listed, this was the only complaint that I did receive on this property.
Okay, all right, thanks, Adam. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Adam. Board, any other questions for anybody?
No.
Before I close the floor, this is our chance.
Somebody back there in the back.
We've already gone through public testimony, and we've had time for rebuttals and final statements. Any other questions?
I guess I have a question. So we've heard testimony with respect to safety and on the road, and in addition to the trash issues we've heard, but safety of, as we've addressed these short-term rentals, safety has always been a discussion point. And my question is, are there any citations or evidence of speeding tickets or speeding violations? Is there anything?
Is that a question for Adam?
Yeah, for anybody, whether Adam or if there's things going on that road that are unsafe that we have, or is it just all neighbors?
I can answer a little bit to that. So I did contact Oldham County Dispatch to find out if there were any issues on the property in August or in that time frame, to see if the police department had been out there. As far as a ticket being written, I can't comment to that, but the police department dispatch did say that they had not received any calls for that property. So my call was the first one that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Adam. All right, any other questions for anybody? No, ma'am. All right, I'm getting ready to close the floor. Okay, floor is closed. Open it up for general discussion.
So what we have is a company in Chicago that's owned a property on the river here for 4 years. We don't know exactly how long they've been renting that as a short-term rental without being in compliance. They have other properties, so they would know that they have to be in compliance with local ordinances prior to running ads on short-term rental websites.
Well, that's
That's
speculation, but
speculation. That's from what I'm gathering today. We don't know. We don't know how long it's been rented. We haven't been able to get that answer. So I think we're here today because there was a complaint, and it's the attempt to bring it into compliance is what we're looking at now.
yeah, I mean, I agree. It's with the owners. This is a non-owner occupied, and not only a non-owner occupied, it is a long distance. The owners, the LLC address is Chicago. They don't have immediate boots on the ground. They do have a property management group within the 25-mile radius, which is what the regulation states. However, we have heard plenty of testimony that and I've stated this, I'll state it again, where it says the community or neighborhood has a need for the proposed use, and there's benefits. The community could be as little as, the 2 or 3 surrounding houses, or the community could be the whole, that's undefined. But it is clear that those that are here today do represent a community of the surrounding property, and under testimony, and they have testified that it's certainly not a need or benefits of having this. Matter of fact, they're complete opposition of it. I'm not in favor of this application with the owners in Chicago, based out of Chicago. We've seen evidence, that the property is not taken care of. So I'm not in favor of this thing.
Well, let's get a vote.
Do what, Charles?
Let's get a vote. I'm ready to vote.
Speaking to the mic.
So I'm ready to vote on this one.
Any other discussion? If no discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Motion to deny an application for requesting a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental property located at 3102 Belknap Road in Prospect. The proposed use is not desirable to the community. And that's basically my motion.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? This application has been denied. Okay. And Gretchen, if you'd like to read the next one, please.
OC 23-039, an application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental property located at 1101 East Moody Lane, Crestwood.
Okay.
All right. Once again, Ryan Fisher, Senior Planner, Oldham County Planning. Once again, application is for a non-owner occupied short-term rental located at 1101 East Moody Lane in Crestwood. Sits in an R2A residential zoning area on .292 acres of property. No site history on this case. Same adjoining property owner notices were put to the website on the end of September. APOs were mailed out on the 4th, and then it appeared in the Oldham area on the 12th. Here is the property, East Moody Lane and Georgie Way. And shows the zoning there of R2A. Once again, applicants requesting that conditional use for a short-term rental property as they are non-owner occupied. And then a couple pictures of the property. One from the side right at the corner of Georgie and West, well, where West and East Moody comes together. And then a couple pictures down the road. Either direction. The responsible party is the property owner who is present here today. 16.8 miles away, so in compliance with the, at the time, current zoning regulations. So applicants requesting a conditional use permit for the non-owner occupied short-term rental property at 1101 East Moody Lane in Crestwood. Conditions of approval, potential conditions of approval for you. Conditional use permit shall only apply to the application considered at the October 19th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing. The applicant shall comply with all regulations concerning short-term rental properties outlined in the zoning regulations section 250-050. Conditional use permit shall be automatically revoked upon transfer sale of the property, and the applicant shall apply for and be issued a short-term rental property permit before renting the property. So, short and sweet, but that's all I've got for you.
All right. Questions? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And if we can have the applicant come forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
And name and address and be sworn in.
My name is Ken McFarland, and address 3606 Fallen Timber Drive, Louisville.
Okay. Be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth. And if you can justify the project.
Sure. As I said, my name is Ken McFarland. My wife is Rebecca, and we're the owners of the 1101 East Moody Lane. And we're seeking the approval for the property to use as a short, midterm, as well as long-term rental. My wife and I moved here in 2004 and to raise our family of 6 children. She provides medical care to many Oldham County residents at Baptist Hospital. And I have worked in property management for my own properties since probably, well, before we moved here. I had a rental property. I own 6 homes in Oldham County. We have multiple long-term and short-term rentals in Oldham County. I started doing this before Oldham County even had any regulations, before they knew about this. So we seek to offer visitors and travelers that come to Oldham County, families, business travelers, a quiet and comfortable and peaceful housing environment. I have never had any complaints at any of mine. I operate, like I said, I operate several in LaGrange and throughout Oldham County. I have operated short-term accommodations since 2017 and have had very good experience with our guests. And some of the situations and people that we've been able to help, I'm going to list. And this is kind of an advocate reason of why short-term rentals are valuable to Oldham County. Properly managed, I might add. We had an international robotics team that came to compete in a DARPA robotics challenge. That challenge was in Louisville, but they stayed out here because they wanted more space. They won $500,000 in their competition. They spent some of that money here in Oldham County. I had a mother and daughter from Ukraine when the war broke out. A local LaGrange young woman knew this family, and I was quite impressed. She contacted me because she saw that I had a listing, and she said, "I'm going to Ukraine. I hope I can bring back this family that I know." I didn't hear from her for about 2 weeks, and on Good Friday, she contacted me and said, "Can we stay in your house?" She did not have enough room in her. She had a small apartment. So she rented my apartment, and the mother and daughter, she was able to get out of Ukraine and until they could secure a permanent housing. I've had a polo player come that was a professional polo player competing in Louisville, but he chose and wanted to stay in Oldham County. I had an international aid worker during the pandemic, missionaries that were missionaries in Africa. They were home on leave. They came and stayed in one of my short-term rentals. I've had international business owners, engineers from Argentina that were here. I had family displaced to their home fire. They had a home fire, and so they needed a place to stay. A hotel is not an option for a family of 4 or 5 that need to stay for several weeks. I've had traveling medical personnel, like traveling nurses. Of course, Kentucky Derby attendees. Several families that are relocating to Oldham County that needed time to, this has happened multiple times too, either wait for closing, finish some projects on the house and things like that. And so they needed some extra time, and so they stayed in my short-term rental. Besides the many tourists, visitors to our community, this list of people I've mentioned is really an example of the hospitality that we provide, that Oldham County provides with short-term or mid-term housing options through local Kentucky property owners such as us. I have been managing these safe and short-term options for Oldham County. I believe is vital to providing, a variety of housing options for both employers, visitors, residents. I've had many families of residents stay in them because they don't have room in their place. So they contact me and say, can my in-laws that are coming, or children or something like that might have a larger family then can stay in their own house. This particular location is close for the Baptist Hospital, LaGrange, as well, for either families of patients or even medical personnel, the traveling nurses and so forth that has become very popular in the past few years. Traditional long-term rentals, as I mentioned, I manage both long and short-term, do not provide the flexibility that allow many of these situations. You would only have, like, say, 12-month or longer leases. That would not allow me to have done any of those things for those people, such as the Ukrainian refugees or the robotics team or families for fight. All those things are all of a sudden off the table when you don't allow a short-term rental. To my knowledge, I've never had any complaints of any of my rentals. I manage these as personal, and I would have a place that I would live in as my rental. So mow the grass, take care of, making sure like that. Another reason I like to do, some people have asked me, why do you do short-term if you can do long-term? Well, I mentioned the flexibility, but also I'm constantly in contact with my property. So if things break or anything like that, I'm fixing it right away. Some of my long-term properties, I'll have a tenant that is responsible to take care of those basic maintenance things. And actually, it's a bigger problem. I have to come in, like if they ever leave, then I come in and fix this. So in other words, the short term, I'm on the property very frequently and maintaining the property, the look, the maintenance of the home and everything like that, which I think increases and keeps values good for surrounding areas. Well, one of my properties I've actually managed for years, I've welcomed over 1,000 people to Oldham County. Probably more than anybody else, other than a hotel, right, in Oldham County. So I've done this for a while. I'm very experienced I'm sure maybe you're aware of in short term, like in Airbnb or VRBO, there's a rating system. I have denied guests because of their ratings. Because if I had a guest that did something against my house rules, had a party or something like that, I can note that. And so the next host could choose to say, well, I don't want to have them in my property. So I have been diligent about that. So I don't, I have strict rules about no parties and things like that. Pets, I try and do no pets, but I have, sometimes people will sneak that in and then I note that and I'm like, the next person's gonna catch you on that. A nice thing too is if there's anything that violates my house rules, which I said I really haven't other than maybe having a pet, well, they're gone. A long-term renter, I have to wait for that, and they actually have much more rights to the property. So this particular property, 1101 East Moody Lane, I had long-term renters in there recently, and I had to ask them to leave. So it can confirm to me again that my short term they have been slightly more profitable and no headaches. The long-term renter, there was domestic, dispute between the man and the woman. They had dogs. They didn't tell me. They had 3 dogs. I'm like, okay, so I was glad to have them exit the property. So now I want to be able to use this as I've done some of my other ones. And I've reached out. I heard some objections earlier. And if this was my property, I want to have each and every resident around my place have my personal cell phone number and to tell me if I have a guest that was doing something disturbing the neighborhood, the community, to let me know right away because I would do something about that. Donald Neal owns 2 houses near, one I think is across the street from me. The reason I know him is because he was one of the ones that was issued the letter about this meeting. And so he owns one across the street on Georgie Way, and I think he owns, let's see, what did he say? He wrote me a little note here. 1003 West Moody Lane, so that's right across the road too, and 3908 Georgie Way. So Mr. Neal said, I have no objection on the short-term rental properties on the corner of Georgie Way and East Moody Lane, referring to my house. When I talked to him, he was, it's interesting, long-time Oldham County resident, and it was a joy to talk to him. He said that, one of the reasons I like that is because my daughter is a traveling nurse. And so she finds it very hard to find places sometimes to stay. And so he thought, well, that's nice that you're doing that. So, and I after talking to him, I relayed some of my stories about having a travel nurse and other medical people like during the pandemic. One of the unique things about the short-term rental is during the pandemic, if you remember, right, this is not that long ago, like travel ceased everywhere, right? Like hotel, you couldn't stay in them basically. The summer of the pandemic, I thought I wasn't going to have any business, right? I was like, where's all my guests going to go? I had many. I mean, most weekends were full. People still needed to travel. People still went to work. People still needed to get away, but they didn't want to stay in a hotel or be so close to somebody. And then also the owner-occupied short-term rentals don't provide, privacy, right? There's not to have nobody there. So the few that I have that I don't live in were used quite frequently because they could stay there. No one else is there. Once they left, it was thoroughly professionally cleaned, and another guest could come in. So there was no contact with anybody else. So that provided an outlet for many people. I had people contact me to say, well, is there any, like other people there? I'm like, no, you have the entire place to yourself. I don't live in the basement. I don't live upstairs, and you have the basement to rent or things like that, which is what the owner occupied. I do that as well. So I do short-term non-owner, short-term owner occupied, and long-term rentals, just plain long-term rentals. That's my story, and so I just wanted to let you know that I'm local, invested in Oldham County, own multiple homes, and we go to church in Oldham County. We lived here for the reason I had to move to Louisville was some issues with my mom when she was getting elderly. She actually is buried in LaGrange, so we're invested here personally and financially. And so I just ask that you approve the short-term use for this home so I can have this last one.
Okay. Questions for Kenneth?
Just one. To your knowledge, are there any other rentals on Georgie Way there? Any other short-term rentals?
There's lots of rentals. I don't know of any short-term, yes. So the house next to me is a
On that stretch?
rental.
Okay.
I tried to meet the neighbor behind me. They weren't home every time I've tried. And you just see it on the corner where it is, right? There's only two properties that actually share, property lines, I guess you would say. One's a rental. I'm not sure about the other one. I don't think it is. I think it's a regular one. And
Did
then
you have
across the
something?
way are a rental.
I was just going to say, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any other short-term rentals.
Okay.
Being kind of a Hoosier transplant, I'm not great with all the streets yet in the county, but I don't believe there's any more over in that area.
All right, any other questions? Do you monitor this property or any of your other properties, noise, or how do you monitor and prevent partying and quiet times? And this is in an R2 zone, so do you monitor it all for any of this?
Actually, I don't monitor it like electronically. I know there's options to do that, and I can do that if that's a need. I haven't done that in any of my places because I haven't had any issues. I actually sometimes drive by my rentals while they're being occupied to get an idea of what's going on. I don't allow parties. I mean, I say that up front on the things, and when I've had any kind of when you do this for several years, you kind of get an idea of who's trying to rent your place and what the reason is. And so that's why I said earlier, I deny, and I very infrequently have I ever accepted someone who has not already been a guest on the host. So they have to have a rating system. Like if it's a brand new person, it comes up, they can't book it automatically. They have to message me and I can talk to them. And so back and forth. So that's where I've kind of ruled out, maybe too young of people or something like that, that I think, you're not, not the type of guest that I want. So the type of guests I have are families. Usually it's children, or in the case of individuals, workers, people here for work. I get people here all the time that working in for the engineers for LESCO. I have two engineers working for LESCO that are here for a short time.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
I have some questions. Can you just talk maybe a little bit about the neighborhood there? I'm not that familiar with it, but it looks like Georgie Way is residential neighborhood, and across the street on Moody Lane, there's like nothing there.
Right.
Is that a farm or something, or
Yeah, I'm not sure how large a plot of land it is. It's pretty big. You can't see any houses. So if you look out my front door, you're looking at just trees and a field out there, and then the house.
It looks like the driveway goes out onto Georgie Way.
Right. The front door faces Moody Lane. The driveway is Georgie Way. So there's any cars coming there. There's really room for 2 cars. I mean, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. So, I limit the number of people that come there. And yeah, so you're not even really driving by anybody's driveway to go there. I mean, you pull off the main road, and mine's the first driveway there.
Is there a stop sign at the intersection there of Georgie and Moody?
Yes, it's a stop sign because it's the entrance into that whole neighborhood.
Are you aware of any accidents, in that intersection or near where you live there?
No, it's...
Or not live, I mean, where you rent there?
Right. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody here wishing to speak in favor or opposed? Okay. Board members, questions for anybody? Kenneth, any final statements, final words, anything?
No, I just thank you for your time. I realized I got this application in right in the point of the transition, and I did come to that meeting. I had not known about the change of the proposed change of the regulations. So I spoke at that meeting because I was against those changes because I've been doing this responsibly, which I will continue to do, and obviously with this one, in respect for the community and neighbors and everything like that, I am diligent about who I let stay and this continuing. And again, I mean, I'll put my number out there because if it was a long-term renter or short-term, I want to know if they're taking care of my property. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I have questions for staff. So, first question is, are you aware of any safety issues or incidents of accidents or pedestrian issues or dogs or whatever in the area of this property?
I mean, no, not that I know of. I mean, when I drove over there to take pictures, I'd never been over to that area before. There is a stop sign coming out of Georgia. It's not a 3-way stop right there, but I stood out in the middle of the road to take pictures, and
Right.
You did get it.
I didn't get hit. I'm still here. So,
Okay, I have another question. So with respect to Mr. McFarland's other rentals, short-term rentals, presumably he has to do the annual application process. And are you aware of any violations or any other issues with respect to any of his other properties?
no, we've had no issues with.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I'm going to close the floor, open it up for discussion. Stark difference between the
Yeah.
two. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, this is not in a commercial area, but it has the safety and character of something that would be safer, I guess. And yeah, I mean, those are my concerns, is somebody getting hurt and that type of thing, so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I appreciate the, even though he's not a owner-occupied, he is in Louisville. He's got various properties here in Oldham County. He's got a vast or a vested interest in Oldham County, which I absolutely appreciate. He has history in Oldham County. His mother's, I believe he said his mother is buried in Oldham County. He's got other businesses in Oldham, so vast difference, and that's what I'm looking for. This one I'm absolutely in favor of. I appreciate where it talks about the community or neighborhood has a need. He spoke about all the different tenants, the displaced family and the people from Ukraine, and that's the need for STRPs. He's actually listed a dozen of them. traveling nurses, missionaries, international business owner, international aid workers, so just the various, for that need. So that checks the box, maintains the character and objective of the neighborhood that, he checks a bunch of different boxes here. So I'm absolutely in favor of this one.
As am I. Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion. A motion to approve OC 23-039, requesting a conditional use permit for a non-owner occupied short-term rental located at 1101 East Moody Lane in Crestwood. The character and objectives of the proposed use and the potential impact on the community and the surroundings are appropriate. And it is also compatible with similar land uses in the area. Conditions of approval. The conditional use permit shall only apply to the application considered at the October 19th, 2023 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing. The applicant shall comply with all regulations concerning short-term rental properties outlined in the Oldham County zoning regulations, section 250-050. The conditional use permit shall be automatically revoked upon transfer or sale of the property. And the applicant shall apply for and be issued a short-term rental property permit before renting the property. And that is my motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's been approved. Okay, any other business? Got anything else other than training following? Oh, minutes, yeah. All right, everybody received the minutes. Any changes? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
I make
Move
a
to
motion
approve.
that we accept the minutes with any necessary changes.
Thank you, Charles. Discussion? Or I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Minutes approved. Any other business?
Filing deadline's already passed, so there is a couple items on your docket for next month. So I believe that's November 16th, I believe is that Thursday, but either way, we'll be here. So, and then we'll have the training right after we conclude the meeting.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Well, motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.